A boomer bust. It actually looks like number 1. So this time I got 7 boxes on my porch, and I'm going to show them to you. 7 boxes of Warmachine again, and this time I got about $5,600 of MSRP. And here's a rack, and then this is my shipping center. So this isn't the new stuff that we got, but Boomer Bust number 1 started with me showing you a purchase I made on eBay for $5,000, which honestly is still on the payment plan because it was 12 months no interest. So $5,000 that I could just use and see what I could do with it, and I got $21,000 worth of MSRP of Warhammer, which is this stuff, or sorry, Warmachine, which is this stuff over here, and then Hordes, which is this stuff over here. Now I've made my money back, paid a couple months rent, made a little bit of profit. I also have a couple used figurines, and we've been able to learn the market. So when I bought this $5,000 purchase, it was really hard. Like, I had so many items and so much volume, and I hadn't used eBay on that level ever. We're an eBay store now, so I get 250 free listings that are buy it now and 250 free auction listings. And just this inventory in here at that store level, it's actually been capping us out. So we run out of auction availability, and we still have stuff to sell at the end. But, you know, we've been making our money pretty well. So I found another game store retailer, and they moved to a great location. They moved to a place where they're going to have more foot traffic, their board game sales are up, their Magic sales are good, but they said their tabletop stuff wasn't selling very well. So we got Army Painter base coats, we got terrain base systems. I'm going to take this to the shop, a 2-player battle box. But basically, we got 7 boxes, almost $6,000 worth of stuff. Here's my inventory list. I went through and checked all these off this morning while my daughter was napping. And the hope with this is that I can end up with all these paints in my shop on that rack and having all these paints too and do it for free. The goal... We don't really have a Warmachine crew, but I have sold a ton of Warmachine stuff. We're just doing it all on eBay right now. So I have a lot of eBay repeat buyers who have bought some of these things from me before, and I have a lot of ended listings that have been sold where I can just click sell another and then list my Revenant crew of the Crix Warmachine. So this organization system, it's a lot easier this time than it was last time because these are actually going to match what's in my shipping center already. Probably a third of these I have sold once already, so I can go and relist them. So the hope is, and it was so much quicker to inventory these and make sure I got all of them because I could check the pips. I actually knew what the pips were. So right here, this is a pip code by Privateer Press, and you can look them up on the website with the pip code, and you can find all the information about the actual kit. And listing them on eBay, I'm going to want that pip and the inventory. This is actually organized by pip code, so you can see they're in numerical order based on these pip codes going down. So all these pips are paints, and they're not checked off because I'm going to go set up that rack at the shop and then check them all off there. So the question of what I did is, did I buy at the right percentage where I can make enough money off these box kits that my time is worth it? That's always a big question. And then even if that happens, like let's say I can sell all these at maybe 50% MSRP after fees. I'm not really sure exactly where my percentages are. Honestly, these battle groups, they don't sell super hot online, and they're over £1, so they got to go padded flat rate envelope. That's $6.50 to ship that out. But there are some in here that do sell really well. Let me see what I can show you. I'm going to look for the Mammoth, this guy, the Mammoth Gargantuan. So he's $135 MSRP, and I imagine I'll get closer to the percentage that I want on something like him. But these guys, I'm probably actually going to get about 35% after fees. We'll have to see. Sometimes if they can bundle them up, or if one buyer buys 4 items, it helps a little bit. But I'll probably even out on most of these coming out with a lot of work, which is a lot of time, and hopefully one day my time is worth more per hour working with this business. But the grindy, hustling type work where I'm just doing what I can to make a buck when I have free time, that's okay now. But one day, hopefully, you know, it'd be nice to have an eBay worker, but what I'm making per hour now, I'm not completely sure what I'm going to make per hour here. But what I am going to get is basically an investment-free upgrade, well, time investment, cash investment free to my store. So I'll be able to add Army Painter terrain. So this can be added onto bases to build terrain into your bases, or if you're a terrain builder, you can use it for that too. So there's a lot of hobby tools in here, like this sand. This stuff can be used again on the bases. So if I can convince people or find the people it matters to that hobby assembling, hobby painting, hobby gluing, being proud of the army that you put on the table, if I can convince people that's worth it. In my line now I have Army Painter, base coats. We have some Reaper paints over here, sets of 3. So we do carry Reaper. That's a big stock of our Dungeons and Dragons. We're going to have some Reaper paintbrushes. I mean, it's pretty nice to be able to pick up a paintbrush set for 15 bucks and maybe a couple paints and then go after your miniatures and be able to put the nice items on it. But then we do have pretty much a full rack of P3 paints, which these are built for Warmachine, so a lot of them are named like Signar Blue, which may or may not mean things to our local customers, but you look at the color, you know what the color is, and whether or not you know what Midland flesh is, you know it's a flesh shade. So what we're doing is we're building out our store in a way that's going to pay for itself. So this stuff over here will hit eBay too. This is actually a little easier to ship. Like I can just put this in a padded flat rate envelope, no problem. MSRP, let's see, 12 bucks. I probably sell most of these around 7 to 8, and then I have to ship it. If I ship it alone, it's $260 plus envelope, $280. You know, I'm not going to make a ton off those. So let's see, 5, maybe 40% of MSRP is what I come out on these. I don't know how many of those I'll have in auctions. And these are going to be hard to sell, honestly. These battle cards here, the faction decks. I got a ton of faction cards, tons, like 2,000, but they're not all in decks like this, so it'll be nice to try the decks. But if I could monetize these faction cards, that'd be great. Pretty easy when they're in the box. I haven't had these before, but like in the digital age, all this information you don't have to buy cards for. You can just pull it up on your iPad type thing. So that's a bit of a risk, but I bought the package as a whole. And the package as a whole, I'm in about 22% of MSRP. He paid shipping. The rack was included. That was part of the negotiations. It was the final piece of negotiations. I wanted to pay a little bit less than I paid. But you know, wasn't too bad of a deal. So at 22% MSRP, that's actually below the MSRP that I bought the 21,000 for 5,000. It's right in that ballpark though. So I should be able to make some money. A lot of that money's in paints, though. I'm not sure how the MSRP of paint holds up. Now, if I can sell it in my store, that'd be good. That'd be great. They seem pretty shipping resistant. Like, who's going to ship a spray paint primer? And those little paints. So I think people will pick them up where they buy their minis. And we do have people buying Dungeons and Dragons miniatures, Warhammer miniatures, and maybe, I mean, we just have some Warmachine stuff in the store. We have a couple battle group set, 2-player sets. There's some cool stuff. If I were playing, I'd probably play the Legion of Everblight, because they're elves with, like, necrotic plague on them, and they just seem to have a cool story. And the figurines are great. That or the Retribution of Skyra, which I guess they're the Warmachine versus the Hordes. They're the elves, so I guess I like elves. I do like elves in Magic too. Gaia's Cradle and Priest of Titania are still 2 of my favorite cards. But I just think this buy will use a lot of my time, but it'll be time, I mean, I can just ship them off at night. I can ship them in the morning. My dad takes them to the post office, or we drop them in the mailbox. It's pretty risk-free money-wise. No, it's not risk-free. It's a low barrier to entry, and most of the risk is in, do you have enough time to do the work? So one day, hopefully, like, our business scale is much bigger and I don't have time to do this work. But for now, in the building phase, month 5 of Mind Sculpt Games, well, a lot of the product here won't hit our store, but I think I got 2 or 3 months rent out of what's here. So we'll see. Boom or bust, Mind Sculpt economics, buying from other retailers who want the floor space and have a more established business plan, trying to grind out a couple bucks, see how it works.